my grandma had actually picked me up a vintage machine from a thrift store. It had a motor but no pedal. So I wasn't able to actually plug it in. So I'd actually sit there like with the flywheel and hand crank the machine to sew.
All right, Chris Marchini, welcome to the Sewing Corner. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you today. Obviously, so if you're watching this, everybody out there, this is going to be a pre-record. So one of the things that we want to do here at the Sewing Corner is we want to put communities together. And as we just mentioned off screen a minute ago, that Chris Marchini is a very successful designer. He's very good at what he does. And then, of course, Martelli Enterprises, via Martelli Notions website, we do tools. So we want to kind of just put our communities together. So I'm just going to ask Chris a few questions and kind of pick his brain a little bit and figure out how he got to where he is. And then he can, if you'd like, show us some of your projects and how you got to that point where you started designing. So let's start off. Chris Marchini, quilt designer. What inspires Chris Marchini? Marchini. I'm sorry, Marchini.
Martini. Yeah, it really varies, like where I grab my inspiration from. It's anything from nature, music, other art that's out there. I just like quilting. Like I love quilting. I do it every day. I wouldn't necessarily peg myself as like a modern quilter or a traditional quilter. I kind of cross the gap there. I appreciate lots of traditional designs, but I really like modern aesthetics to quilts. So I grab whatever I like and I make a quilt out of it.
That's crazy because you typically don't hear the modern and traditional go together. So for me to be able to hear that from you, it's very interesting. What age, if you don't mind, you don't have to give your age now, but what age did you get started? And at that age, what was influential to you to get you to a point where you wanted to quilt?
So I started sewing when I was around 8 years old. My mom taught me, but I was not allowed to use her sewing machine. So it was a lot of hand stitching. I
Our
was
lady.
making clothes for like my stuffed animals, um, and making other like toys and stuffed animals and stuff like that. I wasn't allowed to touch her machine until I was about 12. And by that time, my grandma had actually picked me up a vintage machine from a thrift store. It had a motor, but no pedal. So I wasn't able to actually plug it in. So I'd actually sit there like with the flywheel and hand crank the machine to sew. Um, but my background has primarily been in fashion design. So I did a lot of like clothing, like I said, for my stuffed animals. I learned how to read patterns and make clothes for myself and my family. Um, and I actually had a children's clothing line that I produced from 2009 to about 2018-ish. My kids are getting a little older, so they don't like wearing dad's clothes as much. So I kind of fell out of love of doing that. And in 2018 is when I started picking up quilting. So 2018, I started actually sitting down and doing quilting. I'd been watching quilting YouTube for like, I don't know, like 4 years or so. And I just found it fascinating, but also intimidating.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just started, I dove right in, I made a quilt and I loved it. And I've been quilting ever since.
Well, I tell you, with those patterns, what I have found, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, we're on the tool side, but one of the things that I have found is you have to be really good. I guess the best terminology is mathematically brained because you're taking so many different things and you're trying to put them in together in such a way where another individual can look at it and say, "Wow, that's what we do when we go to quilt shows. We look at these quilts and they're like, that's absolutely amazing," and you pay attention to the detail.
Mhm.
So being mathematically brain, did you know that you had that at a young age or?
No, math was always my worst subject
Oh
in
wow.
school.
Oh
Quilt math is a little different, and there's consistency across it. I'm not doing all kinds of weird calculations. I mean, you can get there when you start introducing angles, but my first quilt, it took me probably a month to like draw out what I wanted it to look like. I just had a picture of a monstera leaf printed on graph paper, and so I would trace the lines because I didn't want curves, just straight lines, and I'd block out like, okay, here's going to be a half square triangle, here's a regular square, and like put it all together. And actually, this is my copy, so it's scribbled on, but this is my first pattern.
wow.
Um, So my style, I use a lot of squares and rectangles, and then half square triangles and half rectangle triangles. And all of my patterns, it's the same set of shapes pretty much. And it's just how you arrange them. And it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So it's one of those things like if you saw it at a quilt show, you'd probably like be following the lines to see where the seams are and where the sections are. And I have it made in such a way that it's really hard, other than like a center seam, it's hard to spot exactly how it's put together, but there are no Y seams and no partial seams in my patterns.
Oh, wow. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Again, us being on the tool side, I hate to be redundant, but one of the reasons why I'm mentioning that is, with your audience, I want them to introduce myself a little bit, and I want to introduce my audience to you. So, one of my questions would be, seeing as how you're on the design side, do they have apps, or has anybody ever created an app where you can put these technical shapes together to be able to see it? I guess what I'm asking is like, there's so if I want to go get a living room created, or if I want to go get my car painted, they have apps now where you can put a certain color on your car and you can look at it before you even decide to get that color. Do they have apps together where you can put those shapes together and see what your vision is coming together like?
Somewhat. So there is Electric Quilter. They're currently on version 8, so you'll often hear it referred to as EQ8. You can build quilts in there. It has some basic shapes. You can draw your own shapes. It's kind of like a virtual graph paper. So you can draw it out, but you can also introduce curves and create foundation paper piecing patterns and all kinds of stuff. I have it. I have not played around with it a whole lot. The software itself, to me, isn't super user friendly.
Okay.
I use software called Affinity. So I have Affinity Designer and Affinity Publisher, and it's a lot like Adobe Illustrator. So you could just like turn on the graph and just, click around to little nodes, create shapes, start putting them together. When translating from the image to a pattern is where it starts to get hard because you have to add in seam allowances. So if I know this piece is like a 2 inch square, that means it's really a 2.5 inch square. So when I'm calculating fabric or writing the instructions, you have to keep that in mind, which is where it can kind of trip some people up. And as far as I know, there's not an app for that part of it.
Well, I will say this, and it's funny that you said this. You're talking about 2 inch square, and it needs to be 2.5. So that's one of the things that Martelli really prides himself in is, a lot of people, and the explanation that I like to give is, they give you an acrylic ruler sometime, and they say, here you go, one shoe fits all, and they give you an acrylic ruler, and you can make your half square triangles, and you can make your rectangles, and you can make your squares, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that Martelli prides ourselves on is, and I always tell people, if you want to be accurate and you want to get your quilts 100% where they're looking and people are looking and they're flawless, you have to buy templates that are shape and size specific. So when you cut all your pieces are identical. And one of the main problems that everybody has with that, and they love the concept of, hey, be shape and size specific on your template, is, well, you're back to square one, because as soon as I put my shape and size specific template down, it starts moving on me, and I have all the same problems of not being able to cut them out accurately. So
Hmm.
we had that phenomenal no slip. Now, and I'm sorry I didn't talk to you before today. Have you ever experienced or tried Martelli templates?
The templates, no, I've seen them at shows, but I have not tried them myself.
We need to send you some. And if you have a certain pattern that you like, because I will tell you, one of the things that we have done lately for the last 6 months is, oh, actually, it's probably been longer than that. At 6 months, that's probably fibbing a little bit, maybe a year, is we've been taking people's patterns, and they've been giving us to us, and we've been making templates for them. And then a lot of people are selling, because the templates work so well, they're selling them on their website. I'm not suggesting that for you. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to look at your website, even if you have one. This one, I tell you, this is new. This is really, really new. Okay.
Yeah.
Question I do have. What or who are some of the creators that inspire you?
So when I first started watching like quilty YouTube, it was a lot of Angela Walters. She had
Very good.
her show with Craftsy at the time. I think it was still Craftsy at the time, the Midnight Quilter. I really enjoyed that show. And her whole like finished is better than perfect is really what kind of got me to like, okay, I can try this. If I totally screw it up, it's fine. And then Donna Jordan, who unfortunately recently passed away, she's
I
also
heard.
in Oregon where I am. I did not ever get to meet her, but I did get to visit her shop before COVID and it all closed down and all that. Um, but I watched them like pretty much every day. I would actually sit there and wait for the next episode to come out so I could watch it and see what pattern they're making. And I learned a lot of tips and tricks from both of them.
Yeah. I think we call that the quilting bug here in Pensacola, Florida. You get
Yes.
bit by the quilting bug. Yeah. There's
Yes.
been several things in my life where, you know what, I'll give you a prime example. It's kind of off the beaten path, but, I grew up an athlete, man. I played, baseball, basketball, and football. And of course, my body's paying the price now. I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm old. But I started going to Double A. There's a team here that is not the major league. It's a minor league for the Chicago Cubs. It's called the Blue Ajos, and they've been here for shoot 10 years, and I've never gone to a game. I'm like, it's not going to be like the major leagues. I grew up in Boston, so I went to Fenway a lot. So I saw real baseball. So I went there about 2 weeks ago for the first time. They've been here for 10 years, and I've been to 5 games since. I just
Oh,
got,
wow.
yeah, they're awesome. I know it's not quilting related, but I
No,
understand what you say when we're talking about the quilting bug. Okay, and you touched on this, Chris, earlier. We talked about clothing or designing. You were into that, and so are you out of that now, or do you want to take up a different part of that, or what?
so I was doing children's clothing, which is pretty simple. Like little kids are just like little tubes. They don't have a lot of curves. It's super easy. Most of what I worked with was knit fabric, so it was stretchy and it was easy. Um, I so currently I make all of my own shirts that you'll see in my videos, and I get lots of comments on them.
Love it, man.
And thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm actually wanting because right now I'm using kind of a hacked up McCall's pattern. So I started with the McCall's pattern. I've made some modifications to, have it fit my needs. But there's more that I want to do. So at this point, I kind of want to just start over and design my own shirt pattern so that I could actually sell it and teach it and all of that. So in a way, like I'm kind of finding my way back into the fashion design, even though I had fully stepped away. Like I just dropped it like a bad habit and I moved on to quilting. But it's working its way back into my life. I actually one of my most popular patterns is my quilted trucker hat. So it's a bridge between quilting and clothing. So
Oh, very, very
it's
cool.
always apparently going to be part of me.
So I'm, I guess one of the rare exceptions. I got one of my grandkids. He probably weighs about 50 pounds. Not really. He's just a little butterball. And yeah, I would love to put some clothes on him, some home design stuff. Because I tell you what, like a lot of the stuff that you see, in these retail giant stores, it just doesn't do the same thing for me when you see, a child putting something on that's made with love or with care, or
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah,
And I think that's a really lost art, I guess you could say, here in the United States. Or because I know back in the old days, everybody used to make their clothes, and
right.
now just, we go to these giant box stores, we, get our clothes, and I'm guilty of it too. So I like to see when clothes are designed and things of that
And kids
nature.
grow so fast
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and plus the kids do grow so fast. It's probably cheaper to
Yeah,
actually
they
build
do.
their own clothes, or make
Yeah.
their own clothes. So, all right, a couple other things that I guess I want to. Do you have a specific design that you can show very quickly, or that's handy near you that you'd like to just show and talk about? Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? Maybe it's a block, or maybe it's an old
Okay.
piece of clothing, a hat, anything by you that you'd like to show and just talk about? I'd like to I'd like to show people, I guess, the quality of your work.
Yeah,
And
let
then,
me grab a hat.
okay, perfect.
I have those right here. I have a whole stack of them.
If
I
you want
even
to just kind of go through them a little bit and just kind of talk about each one of them, I think that would be the audience would love to hear about that.
actually have one that matches my shirt today.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome, man.
I made this one at a class. I was teaching the class. Um, in December, I want to say. I flew down to California and taught the quilted trucker hat class, and so I just tried to grab fabric that matched my shirt I was wearing, and this is what came of it. So, in my pattern and in my classes, you start with just basically two fat quarters plus a front panel, some interfacings and stuff, and then you make this hat from scratch. So it's
Very
all flat fabric. If you're wanting to do embellishments, embroidery, anything like that, you can do it before it's actually hat shaped. So you have a flat piece of fabric you can load into your embroidery hoop. You can do whatever you want and then assemble the hat, and it just makes it a lot easier. Because if you've ever tried to embroider on a finished baseball cap,
It's a pain.
yes, yes, it is. So, um, So this is that one. What are some others? This one was fun. This one's actually made out of velvet. So
Ooh,
this
I
is
like
velvet
that.
here, and then this is poplin. It's from Spoonflower fabric. Um, and they had sent it to me last year, and I working with the velvet was a lot of fun. And I like that you could just, I mean, you could use any fabric really. This one is canvas on the front. This is the original one that's on the actual pattern. So these are 1 inch finished half square triangles that were a leftover trimmings from another quilt. So that was fun.
Recycling is always awesome. Whenever you can find projects to recycle with.
Yes, I agree. And I have plans for one. I have not made it yet of using a t-shirt. So
Okay.
using a t-shirt interface because you're putting interfacing on it, so it's going to get rid of the stretch, make
Yeah,
it a
yeah,
lot easier to work with. It's just my to-do list is very long.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you're talented enough to have a long to-do list. So I understood here when you were talking. I was going to ask you that a little while ago, and I'm glad I didn't because you kind of touched on the subject of teaching. So is teaching, is that something that inspires you or motivates you? And how do you go about doing that? Do stores call you up and say, "Hey, Chris, I'd like you to come teach a class"? Do you do it online from your house? How do you go about doing that?
I have done it virtually. I prefer to do it in person.
Most
You
people
can
do.
give some more hands-on instruction and help people who are struggling a little easier when it's in person. I have taught at quilt shops. I have taught for quilt guilds. I actually have a couple more gigs this year planned where I'm flying out to places to teach, which is a lot of fun. Um, Something I never thought I'd be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting. Um, I remember a job like non-quilting related, but years and years ago, I was the senior person, so I was always in charge of training the new people. And my boss even commented about how terrible I was at teaching people because I was just all over the place. Um, but when it comes to quilting, like I can stay focused
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can really walk someone through like start to finish and help them out. Um, so I've been enjoying it a lot. I really do like
Well,
it.
teaching's like, and if you would have told me in 1998, coming out of high school, being an athlete, that I would be, teaching people how to sew and quilt or use tools in order for them to do a better job, I would have laughed at you. So I can relate a little bit in this regard. The more that you teach, the better it is that you become at it because you learn
Hmm.
craft. It's like anything else. But yeah, so that's really interesting. Now, I do want to mention this. I don't want to keep these things too long. I want to keep them short, but I would hope that you would be able to reach out to your audience and show them this video or post it. So a little
Hmm.
bit about Martelli. We are an innovative invention company for sewing, quilting, and crafting. So, we make no-slip templates, obviously shape and size specific. So if you ever come across a pattern, you're like, oh, I love the Martelli templates. I can't do this with the paper template they have. You can send us the template and then we can draw it up, make it, and then put our no-slip and then send it back to you so you can make several quilts. But our cutting mats are to die for. If you're cut properly using my rotary cutter with my rulers, you'll never have to replace your mat. You don't get the big grooves in there. You don't have to worry about our rulers sliding all over the place. And of course, they're two-sided. And then what we're known for, our marquee product is our cutting tables that move up and down with electric legs, and then they tilt front to back like drafting tables. So it's
Hmm.
ergonomically correct, takes all the pressure off your neck, back, and shoulders. But that's just to name a few. Where you can check us out, we have a few places that's really good. We have our awesome YouTube channel, Martelli Notions YouTube channel. So that will, show you a bunch of videos with us using products. Our Martelli Enterprise main Facebook page, and that's where we do fabric sales, and we give really great discounts on fabric every Thursday at 1 o'clock, except for the last Thursday of the month. And our website, martellinotions.com. And of course, we're always giving good deals, like daily deals on a lot of our templates. So if you come across a cool pattern, a lot of times we'll put those on the daily deal. So we do really, really well there. So like I said, this is a platform to join my community with you. I want my
Hmm.
customers to know who Chris, I always want to say Mancini, it's Mancini, right? I was
Marquini.
Marchini. Always said, you think I would be Italian and I wouldn't mess it up. But so I want my audience to know who you are, and then hopefully your audience can a little bit know about us, and hopefully we can provide them with great products. So, kind of in closing, is there anything that you want to add in closing? First of all, let me say thank you for your time. You're very generous with your time. I know that James was telling me you love to be in there creating all the time. So I know I'm taking away from that a little bit. So I want to thank you for that personally. I appreciate that very much. Is there anything that you want to add about Chris to my customer base where they can follow you maybe, maybe some
Sure.
of your patterns where they can view that. So the floor is yours to close, and just tell my customers what you want them to know about you and where they can find some of your stuff.
Sure. So I'm mostly prevalent on social media. I do a lot of tips and tricks and just little videos. A lot of it's just what I'm working on that day. So I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all under at Rose City Originals. And then my website is rosecityoriginals.com. You can check out all of my patterns. I do have some fabric on there, some fabric that I designed myself. I say I'm self-published. I don't know what the equivalent is in the fabric world, but I designed it and had it printed, and it's available on my website. And yeah, just if you want to follow along, I do lots of. I'm all over the place, like I said. So it's different projects, different tips, tricks, whatever's in my brain that day.
So as far as being all over the place, welcome to my world and my crowd. So I kind of run a company here, so I'm kind of all over the place too, man. But this is something that Dave Martelli personally, put Martelli and Prizes aside from it. Something I'm passionate about is meeting new people, what they love, what they don't love, and stuff like that. I've always been passionate towards talking and dealing with people. I've been in sales my whole life, so I'm sure
Mhm.
I've seen you at a trade show. Whether I remember or not, that's a different story. I've been at it for 10 years, and I have reps that do that now. But that's something that I absolutely loved when I go to trade shows, the interaction with the person to the person, and
Mhm.
then teaching them new things. I just got such satisfaction out of doing things like that. So, okay. So when they contact you at your webpage or your social media outlets, is there a place for them to contact you if they want to contact you? They can find it there?
Yeah, you can message me on social media or my email is just chris@rosecityoriginals.com.
Perfect. And for your people out there that follow you, I am Dave Martelli. If you ever want to get a hold of me, it's very, very simple. It's dave@martellinotions.com. So if you have any questions for me, or if there's a tool you want to see designed, or you want to check out what we have, or even you see a tool that we do have and you want to know a little bit more about that, I'm always available. One thing I pride myself on is always being, a lot of people, when companies get larger, the people that kind of start the company, they'll kind of go away and make themselves
Mhm.
less accessible. That's not the case with me. I have well over 2 or 3 thousand contacts on my phone, and I even try to remember people by name, which is almost impossible because there's so many
Yeah.
people. But I want them to know that I care, and that I don't care who it is. Like if I haven't talked to you in 3 years, and you have an issue and you want to call me, I'm going to talk to you like you're my best friend. And just got done talking to you yesterday. I want people to feel loved and cared about, and know that they're important. And so that's something that I value, and it's important to me. So hopefully, your people out there, if they're seeing this video, they know they can contact me anytime, and that I'll always be available. Chris, man, tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are a talented man. I hope you continue on your journey, and I would like to do this again sometime. How does that sound?
Absolutely. It sounds like great idea.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure James books you at a later date. Thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it, Chris.
Sure. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.